a double Torah portion this week, Vayekhel and Pekudei. So let's bring everybody up to speed. We also had a double portion of 2 weeks ago, Truma and Tetzava. Why do we have a double portion? We have a double portion because when there is a Jewish leap year and there's another month added, then you don't need to double up to finish the cycle. But when there's no leap year like this year, you need to double up sometimes the Torah portion so that you finish reading by the end of the year, by Simchas Torah. So that's why there's a double portion. But what's more perplexing, not that there's a double portion, but what's more perplexing is that 221 passages just on building the Mishkan, the tabernacle, which was the traveling Beis Hamikdash in the desert. And it was quite small, a little larger than maybe my dining room. 221 passages, and then creation. How many passages? A few passages. 6 days, 7 days of creation with Shabbos. A few passages, a few pesukim. The creation of the world, which is so complex. Every cell, every atom. But on the Mishkan, which was a small tabernacle with vessels, 221 passages. And we know that the written Torah, the 5 books of the Torah scroll, is very concise. Every letter, every passage has so many layers of meaning, and you need the oral tradition to understand it. So shouldn't have God made it a little shorter? And also it's repetition. Teruma and Tetzaveh, we heard about it. But now again, God repeats the whole thing, and you shall make this, and you shall make that, and you shall make it like this, and the clothing of the priest, and they should have bells, and they should have whistles. What kind of wood to use, what kind of pegs to use. But we already heard it in the previous Torah portions. Why again repeat it? Question number 1 of the day. And also, what is the Torah portion called? Vayekhel, which means gather the community. It's the collective picture, the big picture. And Pekudei means to count, make an accounting. Every Jew brought a half a shekel, so they were able to count the Jewish nation and see how many people there are. In addition, Rashi says there had to be an accounting by Moshe. How much silver came in? How much gold came in? How much copper came in? How much interest did we earn from Bank of America? So Pekudei is the details. So we have Vayekhel, the collective picture, the Jews gathering together, bringing their precious jewelry to build the Mishkan, giving their tzedakah, bringing their special fabrics, coming together to build the tabernacle with the chief architect, Bezalel. So there's a story that there was a cruise ship. Over 1,000 people were waiting to take off from the harbor. And the ship didn't move. Something was mechanically wrong, and they could not figure it out. So there was a very big delay on this cruise ship. They finally got an expert on the mechanicals of a cruise ship, and he comes, and an hour later, it's fixed. So he said, what was it? He said there was a little screw in one of the machines that run the ship that needed to be tightened. Okay, wow. No one was able to figure it out but him. A week later, they get his invoice, $10,000. So they call him up. You just said it was a little teeny screw. An hour work, $10,000. Doesn't make sense. He said, okay, and he revised his invoice. He itemized it. $1 for the screw, the tightening of the screw, and $9,999 to find the screw. So in Yiddishkeit, in Judaism, we have the big picture, but then we also have the details, the little picture. Because people always say, don't worry about the little things in life. What's the expression? Don't sweat the small stuff, right? But in Judaism, it's the exact opposite because it's a relationship. Think of your marriage or think of your relationship with anybody in your life. When was the last time you argued about global warming or the last bill passed by Congress? I mean, you might have a discussion. Well, what's the last time you got into a heated argument with your husband about that? What do you argue about? Why didn't you pick up my cleaners? Now I have nothing to wear. You forgot to leave me the car keys. So I was stranded all day. I had to work from home. We always have arguments about the petty little things in life. I asked you to pick up milk on your way home. Now I can't have a decent cup of coffee. You couldn't pick up one little container at the corner store. That's what we argue about. And coming Pesach, right? You say, does God really care if I left a crumb of challah under my couch? Does God care about a crumb? God? Why should God care about a little crumb? It's not that God cares about a little crumb, but a relationship is always about the little things and the details. When you sweep up those crumbs and you eradicate your house from chametz, from arrogance, from ego, and you have humility, that's what creates a relationship. A relationship is not always what I want, what I need. How come I'm not getting my needs met? It's not that you're not getting your needs met. You have to get each other's needs met. You know what they always say? You can't change another person. You can change yourself, and that changes the other person. So that's the concept. So relationships are always about the details. So Vayekhel Pekudei, we have the collective picture of all the Jews coming together to build this magnificent edifice. And then you have Pekudei, the individual. Every Jew had to give a half a shekel. And every Jew was recognized. Because you could also say by this very virtue, what do I count? What do I matter? There's a million others. You think God cares about me living in Westport, Connecticut, in a little house somewhere? Do I even matter? Does anyone know I exist? Yes. Yeshishim ribu oisius by Torah. There's 600,000 letters in the Torah to represent the 600,000 souls. Because everybody is, reincarnation. Do you matter? Yes. How do you know? Because you're here. Birth is God's way of saying you are necessary. You are needed. That's why you're born. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been born. So if your mother or father ever says to somebody, they were an accident. It's not true. There's no such a thing as an accident by God. You're here because God wanted you to be here and you're needed. So Pekudei emphasizes the individual. If you ever doubt that your presence on earth is counting, this Torah portion says absolutely yes. So now let's go address the 221 passages of repetition. I don't know if you recall when we spoke about the first match made when Eliezer, the servant of Abraham, was sent to find a match for Isaac. And he finds Rivka in Mesopotamia in a very corrupt place, right? A rose among thorns. And he's sent to bring her home to meet Yitzchak willingly. She wanted to marry him. This was not arranged marriage where they covered her with a veil and that was it, over. Remember that story? And we said that the Torah repeats the story. First, the Torah says what Avram tells Eliezer, and you should go here and you should go there and find the right girl, and she has to be a kind girl. And then it's repeated when Eliezer tells Rivka's parents, yes, Avram sent me, and he sent me here, and he sent me like this, and he sent me with camels. And you ask, again, why the whole repetition of the story? And then what unfolds is a layer of the story that when Eliezer repeats it, he doesn't realize that something else was going on behind the scenes. He said in his mind, he was hoping his daughter would marry Avram's son.
Oh.
He's a devoted, when we say servant, I'm not talking about a house servant. It's more like his second in command to Avraham. And then when he goes and he finds Rivka and he repeats the story, he realizes his subconscious that he really was hoping his daughter would marry. And they would say no. Rivka would say, no, no, I never met Yitzchak. Is he good looking? Is he rich? Does he have a good job? Why should I move there? I have a good life here, right? She says yes. And he realizes at that point that she was meant to be the next matriarch. I'm not going to go into the details. It's more understanding that sometimes when there's a repetition, there's another layer that's revealed. So why is it repeating the details of building a tabernacle when we just heard about it? It's not exactly like it's the most interesting story in the Bible here. It's not a romantic mystery like Queen Esther's story. So there's a few beautiful answers. One of them, very simply, is because remember we discussed that God says to Moses, "Va'asali mikdash, make me a tabernacle, singular, v'shachanti b'saycham, and I will dwell within them." So what did we discuss? Anybody remember the answer? Why plural? It's one tabernacle. How do you dwell in many when there's only one? Because remember, the Torah is eternal. We don't have a tabernacle now. We don't have a Beis HaMikdash now. God is saying that every man, woman, and child has to make themselves a dwelling place for God. You're the tabernacle. I'm the tabernacle. And when God is giving us the foundation and the mission statement of our lives, it's going to be lengthy. It's going to have 221 passages because every nuance is a way of how to live your life with happiness, joys, and a sense of fulfillment and understanding. Why am I here? Why was I put on this earth? So that's one understanding. When God is giving you the details of who you are, how to run your life, it's going to be lengthy. It's not just only talking about a physical edifice existing in the desert when the Jews left Egypt, and later we built the Beis HaMikdash based on a lot of the same building principles. You could say, what does it have to do with me? When the third temple is rebuilt, I'll worry about it then. But it's you're the temple, you're the tabernacle. I'm the tabernacle, the Mishkan. The second reason, we always do a few layers. The Medrash says something so fascinating that when Moses was up on the mountain, God built a Mishkan up in the heavens. How did God build this Mishkan? How is God the architect with words? Just like it says, the Kabbalah explains the world was built with 10 utterances of God. God said, let there be light, and there was light. Let there be trees, and there was trees. God didn't take a hammer and build a tree. So God with words built a spiritual edifice, Mishkan in the heavens. And Moshe saw that edifice up in the heavens. So when he went down to build the tabernacle and tell the Jews how to build the tabernacle there, he already had seen one up in the heavens. Now let me ask you, which one did God dwell in? The one in the heavens or the one on earth? Which one did God say, "V'shachanti b'saycham"? I'll dwell in it. Anybody know? Anybody want to give a guess? Unmute yourself so we can hear you.
The earth? Maybe both.
Okay, very good. Both.
Probably the earth.
But God says, Kabbalah says something so fascinating. Why did God make a world? Because God wanted a dwelling place among us. He wanted to be with us. So God is dwelling on the earthly one. The divine presence was always in the Mishkan and in the Beis HaMikdash. But like Jane said, of course, God is everywhere. So why does God make one up in the heavens? What do you need two? Is it like the story with the desert island? The guy gets stranded. 10 years later, they rescue him and they see two shoals. Why do you have two shoals? He says, one I go to and one I would never walk into. So does God need two Mishkans? Anybody have an insight? I always say you can't say anything wrong, really. It's your insight. It's the way you look at it. Don't worry about it. You will, whatever happens in this class stays in this class. Don't worry. So first, the Hasidus, Jewish mysticism, which is Kabbalah. Again, just to tell everyone who's new, what is Hasidus? What is Jewish mysticism? It is Kabbalah, but how to see Kabbalah through the lens of our eyes today, how to apply Kabbalah to our lives. Because if you sit and study Kabbalah, right, you take the Book of Splendor and you say, I'm going to become a Kabbalist. It's very esoteric. Hasidus explains, takes the deepest secrets of Torah and says, how does this apply to your life and my life living in 2026 in the United States of America? God bless America. That's Hasidus. That's Jewish mysticism. I love Kabbalah. I love philosophy. I love depth. But I always say, you need to know, how does this change your life? How does this make me a better, happier version of myself? A more fulfilled person, if you study it and apply it. Otherwise, you're studying philosophy, beautiful. We can quote Jung from today till tomorrow. We can quote Freud. We can quote Aristotle. But how does it make you a better version of yourself? That's the question. So Hasidus explains something so beautiful and profound, really, that every physical item on earth, every rock, every leaf, every human being, every object has a spiritual counterpart. You're not just a physical entity in this world. Every physical object has a spiritual counterpart. So by the Torah telling us through the Medrash that there was a Mishkan built in the heavens to show us that we have a spiritual counterpart. So what does that mean? That if you bang on the table here, you're banging up there. That everything you do has an effect. It's like the boy goes on a boat and he takes out his little hammer and nail and he starts punching a hole under his seat. And the other passengers say, excuse me, why are you punching a hole under your seat? He says, I'm allowed to do it. I paid for this seat. They said, yeah, but if you punch a hole in your seat, we're all going to sink. Your hole is going to affect the whole ship. So if you think sometimes I'm only harming myself, I'm not harming anybody else. No, everything you do has a spiritual reflection, spiritual repercussion. You're punching a hole under your seat. You're destructive in your life. I'm allowed to do what I want. It's my life. It's my body. You know how people like to say. It's not. There's a spiritual reaction to everything you do. So you have to begin thinking there's a much bigger picture here than me sitting on a seat in a little boat, drilling a hole. And then there's another beautiful insight that the Mishkan in the heavens, the tabernacle in the heavens, is perfect. It was built by God. How could it not be perfect? Trust me, the paint color matches exactly. The boards are exactly aligned. There's no mistake that the contractor miscut. And now the marble can't be replaced because it costs $50,000 to replace your countertops. And the contractor blames the marble cutter, and the marble cutter blames the contractor. Who's going to pay for the mistake? The Mishkan, the tabernacle built in the heavens, was perfection. And that's how we all start out, with our perfect dream of how our lives are going to be created and molded and made. We all have the dream of my life. This is how I envision my marriage. This is how I envision my children. This is how I envision my home, my career. I always envisioned that I would be a millionaire and live a beautiful, relaxing life. And now I'm struggling. I can't even pay my bills. I always dreamt that my son would be such a kind, nice, smart, successful person. And there isn't one day he doesn't give me a headache. We all dream of a perfect life for ourselves, for perfect everything for ourselves. But then there's the reality, the Mishkan down below, the real world. Things happen. And you can't, it happened. God meant it to happen that way and happened. So we have to realize we all should have dreams and we should try to fulfill our dreams. But realize there's also the reality of the real life, how it's going to play out. So the Mishkan in the heavens represents the dreams that we have for ourselves. And that's a beautiful thing. Imagine someone who never has a dream, person who never has a vision, person who's in a box and can't get out. It's a terrible thing not to have imagination. When we see a child dress up and go, I'm a fairy, I'm a queen, you don't say to them, you're not a queen. You, you're born in the Lower East Side. When you think you're a queen, you go, wow, yes, you are a queen. You're such a cute queen. And we buy them dress up clothes because imagination dreams are beautiful. But what God is telling us that there's also you're going to have the real life when a dream is shattered, when pain comes out, when things happen. And they're meant to happen because God plotted you out, trust me. And we make choices that change our lives. So again, we have to realize there's always a counterpart. You have to dream, but then there's going to be also the reality. That's the why God says there's a perfect Mishkan. But no, now where's God dwelling? Down here with us. God is not seeking perfection. God wants to be with us, the imperfect people, the imperfect person who makes mistakes and sometimes even denies God's existence. Said, I don't believe there's a God. There's no such thing as a God. After all, I mean, God let October 7th happen. You think there's a God? So God chooses to dwell with us. So this is what this week's Torah portion, the repetition, is bringing forth what this Mishkan really represents. It represents our dreams. It represents how we see our lives. It represents how do we tap in to the energy that can change us, make us better, make us happier, make us feel more fulfilled. And it is a process. Building your own personal tabernacle is a lifelong endeavor till you're 199, hopefully. You're building and you're building and you're making mistakes and you're rebuilding and the color scheme was wrong and this was not right. And then, yeah, you ordered the wrong size sink. But that's what it is. That is your life. But you know what the good thing news is? You're building. You're recognizing that you are a tabernacle and that you're building an edifice for God to be recognized within yourself. That's the power. That's the power. So now there's not too many passages, frankly, right? When they say when people make speeches at dinners and galas, you can't wait till they get off the stage. But when they start talking about you, the guest of honor, I could listen another 25 minutes. Keep it coming. What else? Oh, I'm like that. Wow, yeah. So when it's about you at your birthday party or anniversary or whatever, people can talk forever. You're the center of attention. But when it's about someone else, I heard that already. Don't tell me how to build. I built it already. I did it already. So look at this as a personal speech about you, who you are. Does anybody want to add anything? Does anybody want to share how they're building their little tabernacle? What have you done for yourself spiritually? What have you done for yourself to make yourself feel happier in your life, more joyous in your life, more fulfilled in your life? Does anybody want to share anything?
I like lighting Shabbos candles.
That's beautiful. It's a beautiful mitzvah, by the way. I once went, I met a woman on the train. I'm like, "Are you Jewish?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Do you light Shabbos candles?" She says, "No, my husband doesn't want us to be Jewish, too Jewish." I'm like, "I have an idea for you." And I pull out my little traveling candle kits that I give out.
Yeah.
And I say to her, "Who doesn't like a candlelit dinner? Did you ever go to a restaurant and complain that it was too romantic, too beautiful with the candles? Light your Shabbos candles. Don't tell your husband it's for Shabbos. Set the table. I doubt there'll be a complaint. But don't announce to him, 'Honey, I'm lighting Shabbos candles, whether you like it or not.' Say, 'Yeah, we lit candles. It's a candlelit dinner, honey.' You don't have to tell him why you lit the Shabbos candles. Anyway, I give her my number. And 3 weeks later, she calls me. She said, "Is this Freida?" I'm like, "Yeah." She says, "Remember me? You met me on the train?" I'm like, "Yeah." She says, "You worked." My husband thought it's a candlelit dinner. I'm like, "There you go. He didn't have to know you made the bracha on the candles."
You know
Sometimes,
what, could I
yeah.
jump in for 1 second?
Yeah, please. I love it.
For years, my husband and I light a candle at dinner time, and it never in my wildest dreams did I consider that that was what you're talking about. It's like we don't feel we can eat until we have our candle lit. So you've done me a beautiful, like you say, what have you done in your life? Well, joining this group, I never would have thought he's Catholic, I'm Jewish. I mean, but we both have the same desire to sit peacefully, light the candle, have our meal. And I don't think we've missed that. Could be 30 years that we've known each other, so thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Light too. So it's for Shabbos.
Yeah,
Light.
now I'll start thinking more about that because this is a beautiful identity to build even at this late stage in life. But so thank you. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And by the way, this, I love candles, by the way. I always, whenever I can, I light candles in my house. I always feel it's just so subtle and
It
pretty,
is, yeah.
right? And it just is. It's like such a beautiful thing. Like whenever I have a dinner party, something, I always put out candles. I just love candles. I feel and it says in the Code of Jewish Law, why do you light Shabbos candles? One of the reasons. Why is it a mitzvah? To bring shalom bayis, peace to the home. Why? So if it's dark and it's Shabbos and you stumble and you fall, it creates an argument. Why'd you leave your shoes in the front hall? Now I broke my Bubba's china. And it caused arguments. So now you have to ask, but we have electric. Maybe then it caused arguments because there was no light. The candles brought light, right? But now you have electric. You don't need candles. But the answer is not only a physical light we're lighting a spiritual light.
Yeah.
It's not only the candles, the physical wax candles that bring the mitzvah. It's the reasoning behind it that spiritual light dispels darkness and it brings peace in the home, spiritual peace. So there's the peace from not tripping over your husband's big boots. But there's also the peace that comes from spiritual serenity, bringing God into the home on Shabbos. We're going to talk more about Shabbos because it's actually in this Torah portion. So that's why Shabbos is called the Shabbos Queen, by the way. Why not the Shabbos King? For all the women there who say, the Torah is anti-feminism. It's pro-masculinity only. No, the whole Torah is about the women, by the way. Everything that happens in the Torah is because of the women. I had a debate with somebody a few days ago, a pleasant debate. She said, that there's only men in the Torah. I'm like, really? Every catastrophe
class could you go
and
in
every
the room?
success was because of the women. Start off with Chava, right? She's the one who convinces Adam to eat from the tree of knowledge. No, the whole world came crashing down because of that. We have so many stories. So the women really may not every minute have a list of the women, right? But trust me, if we go through, we'll do it once. It's a lot of fun. So people don't realize that the energy of the women that really, really, the whole Torah unfolds because of the women. So what were we saying? Oh, yes. So the brings serenity. Okay. So now back to the tabernacle. So that's why there's 221 psukim passages just about building the Mishkan, just about building the Mishkan. And again, it reflects the dreams that we have. And then the one below is the reality. And the second point we mentioned is that the Mishkan shows us that there's always a spiritual counterpart to our physical existence. Whatever there is in this world is in the world above. And we impact. Every time we do something, there's an impact. We impact. That's how you're able to impact the world. If you were just a physical object without a spiritual energy, how could you change anything? It's because we're connected to spirituality that we're able to effect a change in life, effect a change in the world, readjust those molecules and those sparks of energy. You know, and that's also divine providence. It's funny because I spoke about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, that one of the things the Rebbe taught us was you never stuck. And the same idea with Joseph. Was I sold or was I sent? In other words, you're here for a reason. And it's how you look at why you're here. So I remember that when there was a convention within Sheikh Chabad, the women went to this, it's an international conference of women. They go to, let's say, Detroit, and they have a weekend of spiritual study and Torah. It's called the Sheikh Chabad Convention. Every year they have it. And there was a tremendous snowstorm. They were supposed to fly out Friday morning, to go home for Shabbos to their families. There's a snowstorm. So one of the leaders of the group called up the Rebbe's office in New York, in Brooklyn, and said, we need a bracha. We're stuck in Detroit. Now we're stuck here for Shabbos, and our families are alone in New York or wherever they are. So the Rebbe quickly sent back a message. A Jew is never stuck, the Rebbe said. A Jew was sent. You think the snowstorm happened so that and now you're stuck? No. There's a snowstorm because you have a mission to fulfill there. So it changed the whole mindset of all the women. We're not stuck. We're sent. We're here for a reason. So it's how you look at your life. Do you look at your life, you're stuck, this was just a coincidence? Or is there something happened in the spiritual realm? So that's another way of looking at it. It's another whole discussion, but I wanted to bring it in because it kind of ties in a little bit, how we have to realize that there is spiritual energy at play here. We're not just a solid object sitting on a chair. Does anybody want to add anything, say anything? Please, Debbie, please.
No, I was just saying bye to Lauren.
Oh, okay.
So you're saying what we do affects our heavenly counterpart.
Yes.
But in return, with this example of the snowstorm, because I was just going to ask this, is anything up there affecting what happens down here?
Yes.
That was it. So that was it. Okay.
Yeah. It's both back
Right.
and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that's also divine providence, why you're sometimes put in a place. The point also is to acknowledge that there's more at play and realize whenever you're in a situation, and it's very hard sometimes, the situation could be very challenging. You have to ask yourself, take a step back, take a deep breath, and say, how could this play out in my life in a more positive way? And sometimes it is a very challenging, tragic situation, a death, an illness. It's out of your hands. So it's a lot of inner self-work. Building our tabernacle is a lot of work because it's sometimes very draining because you're always thinking to yourself, but then it becomes second skin where you almost let the flow just happen. It's like what I discussed, working on your, not only believing in God. Remember we discussed, bitachon is not only faith in God, but believing in God, bitachon a deeper level, where you could truly look at everything and not even see the negativity. Like that's the highest level. Because most of us say, listen, I'm in a bad situation. How does God want me to play this out? But when you have bitachon, which is even a deeper level of faith, you don't even see the negativity. You right away jump and say, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. And that's a life work. The first step is believing that everything comes from God. And the second step is working on that relationship more and more and more. And I'll tell you, when you put yourself in God's hand, it's a lot of relief and a lot of, it's a really beautiful thing to kind of just put yourself in that space. And, I have, 11 children, right? And I even see it among my children, how they sometimes change. Like one of my daughters has 3 children. Just give you a quick story, just happened a few days ago. And when you're a mother, you don't go and hang up on your kids or your friends or anyone go, you gotta have faith. You gotta believe in God. I always say the Eibusher will help and God will help. Or write to the Rebbe for a bracha. I always tell them, to the Rebbe's resting place. Because no one wants to hear when they come to you with a problem or challenge, oh, you don't believe in God enough. Oh, you don't have enough faith. You just have to be compassionate and be a good listener. Don't start telling them how they have to become more religious. That's not a job of a mother or a Rebbitzin or anyone like that. So one daughter says, 3, this camp didn't want their daughter for this reason. And anyway, yesterday, all 3 camps wrote back. They're accepting 3 of the children. All the camps opened up. Yes, we're taking your child. So now all her kids have summer plans, which is a big relief for a mother. And she says, Ma, I told God, I just have faith in God that it's going to happen the way it's meant to happen. If they don't get in, it's not meant for them to get in. If they do get in, it's meant. And I felt so happy that that's the conclusion she came to. Without me preaching to her, laying it on thick. Just come to the conclusion on your own is the most beautiful thing. Not your mother told you, the Rebbitzin told you, the Rebbe told you. Your inner work where you come to a place where you could say to yourself, you know what? If it's meant to be, my child will get into the college he wants. If it's not meant to be, he's not going to get into that college. If a person looks at it that way, it's much easier to deal with it. And that's when it happens, by the way, when you start telling yourself that. It starts happening because you're opening up the portals of God taking over. Remember, I told you, type A personalities like me, I blame myself for everything that happens in the world. Right? My husband misses whatever his flight. It's my fault. Why didn't I get him the Uber on time? Instead of thinking, oh, he was meant to miss his flight. When you're a type A personality and you don't let go, you're very unhappy because you blame yourself for everything that went wrong. But when you say, you know what? Why is it my fault? God wanted it to happen. It's much more relaxing. Put it on God's shoulders. You'll be much happier. Blame it on God. Let go. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, that's just a little insight.
We also heard the Rebbe on one of the Instagram posts.
Yeah.
And he said, just know that everything's okay.
Yeah.
And just to know that everything's okay puts it in another perspective too. You can't project things.
That's beautiful. Thank you. There was a girl that was very big on Instagram. She passed away from cancer and she documented her life. And she said something so powerful. I use it so many times. She said, at the end, it will be okay. And if it's not okay, it's not the end, she says. And I cried when I heard it, and she projects herself, she has no hair anymore and she's very ill and she's lying in her hospital bed.
Oh.
She's not a Jewish person, but it was so touching to me. And I use it all the time. But I don't know, I find a way to use it in every lecture or speech. It just fits in. That at the end, it will be okay. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
I love that.
But that's kind of like she had faith, obviously, in God, Very, very profound words that she shared.
This counterpart that we have up in heaven, what is it that we connect to spiritually, or how do we affect that? Like, is it if you make a bad choice with not eating kosher or whatever? What would be the spiritual connection to that counterpart?
You have a godly soul. So it starts with there. God put a godly soul in you. It all starts from there. that animates the physical body, you know? Think of Frankenstein. Okay, now, everything a person does in this world, because you have a godly soul, and even if you don't, even if, like we said, everything has a spiritual counterpart, except man has free choice, whereas animals don't, and rocks don't, and flowers don't. They don't go against the will of God because they don't have free choice. We have free choice. So think of it in this way, that when you drink grape juice on a white shirt, what happens? Okay. Now let's say you drink grape juice on a black shirt. You don't see it. Doesn't mean nothing happened. It's there. The same thing, just because we don't see it doesn't mean it didn't happen. Everything you do affects a change. If it's a positive thing, it affects a positive change. If it's a negative thing, it affects a negative change. Now a person could go through the whole life eating non-kosher, for example. You're not going to get struck by lightning. Because look at it, the thing is, good things happen also to good people. Bad things happen to good people. And good things happen to bad people. So not always will you see in the physical world the reaction. Like a guy, we visited him in the senior home, and he would always make a joke that he always smoked cigars his entire life. He says, both doctors who told me to quit died, and to me, I'm still alive. So not always smoking cigars or cigarettes are going to cause you to die. But if you looked inside, trust me, this guy's liver or kidney, whatever, trust me, is full of smoke inhalation. So sometimes we see the reaction of our deeds and sometimes we don't. But if we're not aware that we affect a change, then you won't affect a change, even in a positive way. If you think that everything you do has no meaning and no purpose, you're not going to do it. You're not going to be aware of it. But if you know that everything you do makes an effect, you'll want to do it and you'll realize it.
But what if your mood is in a bad way and you're having issues to just keep on that positive route,
Right.
because you're feeling down or something? Does that darken it even more, or somehow does the other side lift you at that point? Or do you have to choose, okay, I've sat in the darkness enough, I want to do something better, help somebody else?
We all have moments of darkness, brokenness, mistakes. And guess what? The power of our spiritual godly connection is that we could get back up. That's the beauty. Acknowledging that you're going to have dark moments or moments you did things you're not proud of. Like, why did I lie? Why was I dishonest? Why did I steal? Why did I embarrass that person? We're not even talking like official mitzvahs like kosher Shabbos. We all make mistakes and do something. And then when we realize it, we try to repair and we acknowledge it in ourselves. Why am I biting all the time? Why am I cynical and sarcastic? Why do I feel I have to put people down? And you look at your life and you change yourself. You make a conscious effort to be different. But God dwells in our broken tabernacles. That tells you something. God is not looking for perfection. If God wanted perfection, you and I would have been created as angels. I once explained that it is when we are broken at times, and then we choose God, that's God's greatest joy, because look how they didn't have to choose me. If you're a perfect person, of course you're going to choose God. You're perfect. You're the perfect child, the perfect parent, the perfect mother, the perfect rabbi. But when you're imperfect and you choose perfection, that's the greatest achievement.
Because it could just be in your mind. Like, you can have stinking thinking, you can have obsessive thoughts that aren't healthy. But then if you can get out of it and call somebody and see how they're doing or whatever, is that the godliness that gets you out of it? Or, I mean, because there's a whole human part to it.
Yeah. Well, always I've shared once a story how you get up in the morning and you're, like we say, on the wrong side of the bed, right? Nobody had that day, do you?
Yeah.
No one is like that. I'm the only one that gets up on the wrong side of the bed. It's an expression. It says, even people who don't study Torah, the psychologists all say, do something for someone else and will get you out of your bad mood, dark moments. It's true.
Yeah.
It works.
And
It
that's a
works.
godly
Does
action.
work.
Yeah, and it's a godly, and it happens to be a godly action. Why? Because it's counterintuitive the way humanity works. What do you do when you're in a bad mood? You stay under your bed, under your blankets, and you mope a whole day, and you call in sick. But you want to get out of it, get out of bed, get dressed, put on your makeup, and go do something productive. And you'll see, boom, you'll snap right out of it. Because that's godly. Getting under your bed, hiding, shutting the lights, and ordering 2 milkshakes, that's the human thing to do. Right? Getting dressed, putting on your makeup, and going to do something for someone else, that's the godly thing to do. That's your neshama talking. That's your soul. But it's very easy to fall into abyss. We all do it. We all have moments where, no, leave me alone. Don't talk to me.
And
Right?
sometimes it can be the simplest thing, letting someone go ahead of you or helping someone with a package. It doesn't have to be this monumental thing. It could be little, but
Beautifully said. Like we said before, it's always in the crumbs, the greatest
yeah,
satisfaction.
yeah.
Like my
Love
kid
that.
said, Mommy, your playroom is called the Amazon Shipping Center. My kids buy and I return. So they said to me one day, Ma, don't you mind going always to Staples and with 700 packages to return the Amazon? I'm like, I get a little joy out of it. I don't know why. I love like sealing it up. They're shipping me their labels. I have to print the labels. I have to match up the boxes with the labels, and then I'm off to Staples. But I don't know. I find like a little joy in that, doing that little act of goodness for them.
Mhm.
To me, it's not a big
Yeah.
deal, but to my kids, wow, mommy just dropped off 30. They know me so
Mhm.
well at the shipping centers. But anyway, so yeah, that's sometimes it's like the
Wait about
small,
that shipping. That's so funny.
right? Do you ever do it? It's the
Oh,
small,
clear it
silly
out.
things.
Clear it out. Save the money. Let's go. Get the right thing. Oh, I feel so good. Yeah.
Yeah, like one of my kids came to visit and they trace minerals. So I quickly went on Amazon, ordered trace minerals. And wow, wow. And I'm like, it's the little things that make life. You know what I mean? That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's those
Yeah.
little godly acts that change your life. You don't have to start, becoming Witkoff and Kushner and making peace deals to be successful. Those acts are the success story. Your Shabbos candles, your little, you know, things. That's what really changes and makes your tabernacle beautiful. We always look for like, this will be the next big thing. No, not necessarily. No one may even know about it. It's your little choice.
Yeah.
Sometimes you buy yourself a little thing in your bedroom and it looks so pretty and you're like, wow, it's so pretty. That's what it is. You're making your tabernacle beautiful. Maybe nobody knows even about it. When you do a good thing, do you tell the whole world? You keep it quiet. Who needs to know? Right? Who needs to know? They just posted something beautiful about my mother. I have to share this with you. And my mother didn't even think she did anything great. But okay, so this woman writes a story. She went to Crown Heights for Shabbos, but the meals were in another house. It's really a silly story, but I love the story. It just happened. Anyway, she finished the meal at 1 a.m. and she walked back to the hostess. She got locked out. No one opening the door. Now it's already 2 a.m, knocking, banging, nobody hears her.
Gee.
She's a foreigner. She doesn't even speak the language. So she doesn't know what to do. So she walks up Kingston Avenue, which is like Main Avenue, and she sees a group of teenagers walking. First, she goes back to 770, which is the shul, to try to get in. So she'll sit there. It's locked. So she starts to walk another direction, and there's a group of teenagers, loud, rowdy teenagers coming from a Shabbos meal. So she stops them and she tells them her predicament. So they said, okay, come with us. I thought somebody wrote me a message, sorry. So she's come with us. So she comes with them and they give her a couch in their apartment and she spends the night on the couch.
Wow.
Fine. She The next morning, it's Shabbos morning. She obviously must have gone back to her hostess, changed, went to Shul, 770, the Rebbe Shul. And I don't know if you know the Rebbe Shul, when there's a convention or something on a weekend, the ladies section, you can't walk in. It's like a wall of people. So she makes her way to the front, and the regulars start chasing her away. You don't belong here. Where are you from? Go there. So my mother, who's a regular and always has a front place because that's my grandmother's spot, and everyone knows my mother, says, "Excuse me," to the lady, "come stand near me." And she davens with near my mother, and she's very happy. And she writes this on a news site, how she was miserable. She was locked out of the apartment. She came to shul and they chased her away. And one blonde lady let her stand there, and didn't let anyone push her away. And she says, the minute that lady did that for me, all my darkness, all my like misery of the Shabbos just floated out. All because one lady said to her, "No, you come near me to the front." And my mother didn't even know the story. The lady thanked her, and my mother went home, and she went home after the Shabbos davening. And now she posted about my mother. She found out who my mother is. And we're all writing on the family chat, "Wow, Ma, you're so special. You're such a Tzaddikus. You're such a Rebbitzin." And my mother is like, "What did I do?" That's what it is. That's what it is.
I love
Sometimes you
that.
don't know what you did. You did it. My mother just said, "Why would I let that lady get chased away? You could have my
Yeah,
seat." My mother is like that,
yeah,
by the way.
yeah.
Mother,
Just
My
like your
mother's
mother called my mother to wish her a happy 96th
Yeah.
birthday.
My mother knows Debbie because Debbie's mother used to work in one of the most delicious bakeries in Crown
Oh,
Heights.
wow.
And my mother would go there and always have a relationship. So when my mother went into the bakery a Friday to buy Shabbos cake and challah, Mrs. Kramer says to my mother, "My daughter's moving to Connecticut." My mother says, "Yeah, where?" She says, "Weston." My mother says, "My daughter lives near Weston." And we exchanged, and she gave me Debbie's number to my mother. And my mother says, "Quickly, call her daughter. She's moving near you." So I call Debbie. I introduce myself. I invite Debbie for Shabbos, and she brings me a rose bush. I plant this rose bush, and it doesn't take off. I water it. I kvetch with it. I talk to it. Nothing doing. A few months go by, and I meet Debbie, and I'm like, "Debbie, come around, blah, blah, blah." And Debbie starts coming around. Anyway, I go outside, and the rose bush suddenly is sprouting roses. So I say to
That's so
myself, you
funny.
see, when Debbie started to come around, the rose bush started to grow. Till
Mm.
Debbie didn't come around, nothing happened with the rose bush. So I still have this rose bush, and every spring it sprouts. And I always say this is Debbie's rose bush. It
I
sprouts
love it.
because Debbie's energy. So that's what I think. It's a true, I don't know, but that's how I look at it. So Debbie, thank you for your beautiful rose bush.
Thank you for your friendship and your
So that's the story with Debbie. So you never know. All these little things fall into place.
Yeah.
Your Mishkan, it just happens. It just happens. So I want to end off, we have a few more minutes, is a very interesting thing that in these passages, and it's talking about the technicalities of building the Mishkan, right? And by the way, the Jews brought so much money and so many contributions, Moses had to make an announcement in the newspapers, "Stop bringing." We have enough. And my joke is always, did you ever hear of any Jewish organization that said to people, "Stop bringing, stop
No,
giving"?
no.
Okay, right? We're always saying, give. Are you going to give? You're going to contribute? We need the money. So suddenly, in middle of the whole explanation of building the tabernacle once again, Moses stands up in front of the Jewish people and he says the following thing. He says, "Vayekhel Moshe's kol hadas b'nei Yisrael." He gathers all the Jewish people, Vayekhel, the Torah portion named,
Yeah.
and he says, "These are the things that the God has commanded you. Sheishes yomim, 6 days, ta'aseh malacha, do work. Ubayom shri, and on the 7th day, yelacha kodesh Shabbos. you should have a holy Shabbos. And anyone who, God forbid, does work shall be put to death. This is what he announces to the Jewish nation. All the commentaries say it's talking about building a tabernacle. What are you bringing in Shabbos suddenly? Like, can you just say, what's Mr. Kasha mit borscht? Why are you mixing kasha with borscht? Those two foods don't get mixed. And the answer is that Moshe tells the Jewish people, though God wants you to finish building the tabernacle as soon as possible, on Shabbos, as holy as the tabernacle and the mitzvah of building the tabernacle is, on Shabbos cease all work. Do not even put one screw into the tabernacle on Shabbos. Well, you'll say, why? God said, finish it, make it quick. It's God's dwelling place. It's the Beis HaMikdash. Shabbos supersedes even building of the tabernacle. And as a matter of fact, we're not going to talk about it now, but all the forbidden things on Shabbos come from the building of the tabernacle, how we know what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do on Shabbos, what's permitted and what's not permitted. And I might add that just because it's hard doesn't mean it's forbidden on Shabbos. And just because it's easy doesn't mean it's permitted on Shabbos. For example, we had a mailman on Montgomery Street. He would deliver the mail Shabbos morning, and he had a relationship with my mother. He was Jewish. He says, Mrs. Jacobson, can you tell me? He always had a challenging question. I love to smoke. Why can't I strike a match on Shabbos? It's not hard work. Strike a match, and I smoke my cigarette. And my mother's explained, it's not about how hard the labor is. It's about, is it creating something new? Or is it status quo? Another example, if I have to bring up my salad items to make the Shabbos salad, Shabbos morning, Saturday morning, and it weighs 29 pounds. It's hard, but it's permitted. But striking a match or flipping a switch is easy. Why can't I flip a switch on Shabbos? What am I doing already? Why do you need a timer? Because it's not about whether it's hard. It's not about whether it's heavy. It's whether you're creating a new creation or not. Another time we'll go more into it, right? So even building the tabernacle, which is a mitzvah, you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. And so what is Shabbos? So God said, I created the world on 7 days, and then I created another creation called Shabbos, rest, where you abstain from work. Now, the Torah says a very beautiful thing, that every day in the week has a partner. Sunday got Monday, Tuesday got Wednesday, Thursday got Friday. Comes Shabbos and says to God, it's not fair. Everyone has a companion. But me, I'm all alone. God says, you have the best companion of all. You I gave the Jewish people. The Jewish people will be your partner. They will keep you. They will sanctify you. They will embrace you. They will love you. And that's why it says that more than the Jewish people have kept the Shabbos has kept us as a people of who we are. Why? Shabbos is a day where you disconnect from everything. No phones, no television, no internet, hard work, driving, etc. It's a day where you realize why you're on earth. It's a day where you acknowledge that are you here to work? Do you have Shabbos because you work 6 days a week? Or do you work 6 days a week to have Shabbos? In other words, are you resting on Shabbos so you could go have enough energy to build an empire, make more money, build your career? Or 6 days a week you work because you need to make a living. You're living in the real world, but you're working so that you could have a Shabbos. You have a moment where you say, that's why I'm working. Working is not the end. I work to be able to have a time, 24 hours, to identify my soul, my relationship with God. Even look at my children. I didn't know he got measles. When did he get measles? The husband says to the wife. Well, she says, you weren't home all week. You worked till 10 o'clock at night. Of course you didn't see he had measles. You sit at the Shabbos table with your husband, your wife, your children, or if you're not married, and you look at someone's face and you go like, oh, there you are. Now I see you. Tell me about your week without interruptions.
No.
Even me, you think I could have a conversation with anyone during the week? My kids, I'm like, 1 minute I gotta read my messages. 1 minute I gotta shut the oven. 1 minute I gotta look if I got an email. We're almost sugar with technology.
Yes, we are.
I used to make a joke. We don't have enough plugs in our house to charge our phones because all the kids are home. 11 times 11, two parents, 13 outlets we need. We're blowing the fuse boxes.
That's
But
funny.
and then also time to identify the God within yourself. Why am I here? Is my life a rat race, like an escalator? Up and down and up and down, up and down? Or is there something more to my life than 6 days of hard labor, worrying about my stock market, worrying about my money market fund, worrying about my ETFs? So Shabbos is the greatest gift God gave us, not only because God wants to have a relationship with us, you want to have a relationship with yourself. Who am I? You don't take a minute to stop your day.
No.
That's life. Unless we're workaholics. That's how we are. Go ahead. Yes.
How does that connect to then the godly soul in retrospect to Shabbos?
Very good. Because when you don't, connecting to who you are, your mission, your purpose, you need to sit yourself down. If you're running, and you never take time to acknowledge why you're here, what you need to do, you don't have a mission statement, you're never acknowledging your godly soul. You know that people go through life, they don't even know they have a soul. They don't even know that God runs the world. When you finally sit them down and you take a moment, a breather, which is Shabbos, it gives you the ability to connect to yourself and say, why am I here? Why am I working so many hours a day? How is enough enough? How much is enough? Or if you're not making it, you also want to wonder, like, what can I do in my life to make it better? I can barely make ends meet. So Shabbos is symbolic, but more than symbolic, because everything is about action. Shabbos is kind of going to the therapist and saying, I'm working 6 days a week, but I don't feel any satisfaction in my life. I'm not feeling happy, and I'm wondering why. Shabbos is there to point out to you and help you reflect on your life and who you are and what you want to be and what you could be.
It's almost like a direct communication with your higher self, your spiritual self, because it's almost like that's when they could communicate with you.
Right. You can't come home. You can't communicate with yourself if you don't communicate with yourself. If you never pick up the phone to call God, then why didn't you pick up the phone and dial 1-800-God? Shabbos is that day when you call God and you say, God, I'm in shul. I did a little davening. Now we're going to have cholent. I'm going to take a little nap. I'm going to play boggle with my children or whatever game you play on Shabbos. I'm going to read a good novel. If your name is Freida Hecht. And you take a breather. You take a breather. And when you take a breather, everyone knows when you go on vacation, don't you feel a little better? Like sometimes even you become more productive when you take a vacation because you're off the escalator and you're like kind of, right? You take a little breath and a different location. You come back, you see things from a new perspective. That's Shabbos every week. Every week you get a new perspective because you're not being torn in every direction. It's only 24 hours, remember, right? I want to share a beautiful Shabbos story I just read that Lev Levayev, I don't know if you ever heard of Levayev Jewels in Manhattan, New York City. They're international. It's a Bukharan family, Israelis. Some of them live in America, but Levayev is in New York. A multimillionaire company. And my father blessed memory, knew Mr. Levayev. And he bought a mall in Tel Aviv. A mall. And he said, I'm Shomer Shabbos. I keep Shabbos. He closed the mall. Now the mayor of Tel Aviv says, what? He's closing a mall on Shabbos? Shabbos is the biggest shopping day. And the mall is vital in Israel, right? All the workers, right? It generates a lot of income for the city. He calls up Mr. Levayev. He says, you can't close the mall on Shabbos. It generates so much business and employs so many people. And Tel Aviv is the city that never sleeps. It's not a religious city. And no one near the mall is even religious. You're not like you're in Mea She'arim, in Bnei Brak, right? Where all the religious Hasidic Jews live, or Kfar Chabad. You're in Tel Aviv. He says, I'm sorry. I'm Shomer Shabbos. I own the mall. I keep Shabbos. The mall has to keep Shabbos. The mayor took him to court. He sued him.
Wow.
Now they come to court, and Mr. Levayev, who could surely afford a lawyer, doesn't come with a lawyer. And they hear the complaint from the mayor, and now they hear it's his to defend himself. He says to the judge, imagine if the king gave you a beautiful gift, and you took the gift, and you stomped on it, and you broke it. Is that respectful to the king? The judge says, no, of course not. He says, God, the king gave me Shabbos. If I keep the mall open, I'm stomping at the most beautiful gift God gave me. The judge looked at him and said, case dismissed. That was it. Case dismissed. And listen, wait, the plot thickens. So after a few years, he made his money, obviously. He sells the mall. And they look at the financials of the mall when he owned it for the few years and when the new owner owned it. And kept it open on Shabbos, by the way. The new owners kept it open on Shabbos. And they saw that when Mr. Levayev owned the mall, it made 13% more profit. 13% more profit. You know what this means? This means like this. Many times, what's the excuse people working on Shabbos? I need the money. Shabbos is my biggest manufacturing day. But you know what? Who allocates the money? Do you know that you make $1 million a year because God wrote down in the book that Jane Sklar is going to make $1 million this year? Now, you might say, I only made $60,000 this year. And I kept my store open on Shabbos. How could I make so little? You know why? God wrote down in the book that Mr. Smith is only going to make $60,000 this year. So it didn't matter that he kept the shop open Shabbos or kept it open 24 hours a day. He was allocated to make $60,000. He's not going to make $61,000. You know why? Because God did not write it down in his or her book. So when you start thinking in those terms, that your money is allocated by God, not by your boss, not by the stock market, not by your CEO. God allocates to everyone what they're getting that year. That's what you're going to get. But by the way, this is not an excuse to sit home and not have a job. This is not an excuse not to work hard. This is saying that God looks at every person and allocates what they're going to get. The same God who tells you what you're going to get is the same God that said keep Shabbos. If you're Jewish. If you're not Jewish, you don't have to keep Shabbos. So once you start looking at Shabbos in God's terms and God's way, you realize it's not about that I open my store another day of the week because I need the money. If God says the better way is to keep Shabbos, keep Shabbos. Unless there's a loophole. By the way, there's certain halachic things people, like Pesach, you sell your store, a non-Jew owns it. There's different ways people run businesses. You speak to a rabbi, but that's the story. So Shabbos, more than we have kept Shabbos, Shabbos has kept me and you, because Shabbos tells you, why are you here?
I love that.
That's what Shabbos is. So slowly but surely, it's one step at a time. One woman said she stopped going to the movies Friday night. She always went to the movies. She stopped going to the movies. And slowly but surely, she got more connected to her Shabbos.
Freida, thank you so much. I'm sorry I have to go.
No, that's fine. Good Shabbos to you.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
Good
So
Shabbos.
sum up the class. The class is everyone has to build the tabernacle. And remember, you're going to make mistakes. You'll have some crooked walls. The color scheme won't match. You try your best because God rests. God lives where you make an effort to allow God in. Remember the story with the broken vase, the broken pitcher. The water dripped out, but cracks allow light in. Sometimes a crack, it's a good thing to have a little crack because the light comes in. So you have your little cracks. Don't worry, God will get in. The light will get in. But the main thing always with Shabbos and every mitzvah and every relationship, you have to make an effort. And please sweat the small stuff. Have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you.
Thank you, Freida.
Thank you, Freida.
Amazing.